Hello and welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Kasey Jones.
And I'm Ashleigh Early.
And today we are super excited to invite Kira Hills of Factor 8 to join us. Welcome, Kira.
Hey guys, thanks.
So Kira is a BDR at Factor 8, and she has been in inside and outside sales for nearly 10 years. And a little context, we also recently interviewed LB, Lauren Bailey, who Kira works for. And this must be just one seriously kick-ass team of women that you get to be a part of. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to work on a team that is so dedicated to women and women in sales and doing all you can to kind of cultivate this community of badass women.
Yeah, so it's been amazing. I've worked for quite a few verticals. I've worked for quite a few companies. This is by far, and I'm not just saying that because I'm employed here, but this is the most awesome company that I've ever worked for in my life. I remember going through the interview process, and I mean, I had a lot of interviews, and I think the second or third interview is when I got to meet LB, and she just came on like this, like charismatic ball of fire. Like she just said anything. I think she said the F-bomb like within 5 minutes of us having a conversation. And I was like, I'm going to fit in here really, really well. And she just like, she's very disarming. I just opened up and I told her all kinds of things about my life. And when the interview was over, I talked to my boyfriend. I'm like, I think I just told her my entire life story. And I don't even know how she got that out of me, but she did. And I knew that I really, really wanted the job. And obviously I got it. So yeah, it's just been an amazing experience so far.
It sounds incredible. And honestly, I'm pretty sure LB dropped the F-bomb with us in the first like 5 minutes of our conversation.
I think it was about the first 90 seconds when we were doing the pre-interview prep, which is fine because I'm pretty sure one of us dropped it first.
Yeah, probably. And I think I did. I'm remembering now.
Surprised it wasn't me. Usually it's me.
So I'm curious, Kira, because I think this is another thing that we don't talk about often enough. And this is going to go live in just a couple of days, and just a quick kind of note about where we are. We are in what is it? Day 11, day 12 of protests all over the country about police brutality, about race and in our country, about the murder of George Floyd, and
so many others.
And I'm really curious what it feels like to work in an organization where it sounds like, anyway, you actually feel seen for who you are as a person.
Yeah, so last Friday, I sent an email to my boss and I was like, I need a mental health day. And I said, not that you need an explanation, but I'm gonna tell you why. And I told him why. And the only thing that he said to me was, I 100% understand. If I can do anything for you, let me know. And let me know when you're ready to come back. And that's it. And I was a mess. I mean, I was, and I knew I could go to work, but I wouldn't really be working because my mind was with the millions of other people whose mind was in the same place. Like, why are we still here in 2020? Like, why do we still have to talk about this in 2020? And Lauren sent me an email. She sent everybody an email, and they actually had a meeting on Friday where they discussed it. And I wasn't there, but there's somebody else at our company who is a Black woman, and she was made to feel completely comfortable to let her voice be heard. And she's actually the reason that that LB wrote the LinkedIn post that she just made, because she realized that it was important. It was an important conversation to have. And after talking to her, Lauren felt empowered to write that article. So I'm super glad that she was there. But yeah, I was taken aback by how caring everybody was. Like, nobody was like, judging, nobody, like everybody was just like, hey, we hope you're okay. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. If you never want to talk about it, I'm here. If you're angry, I'll listen. If you want to cry, I'll listen. It was, I can't even put it into words how it feels to work for a company where you feel like people genuinely care about you and you're heard no matter how you feel.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I mean, they had to have done a lot of work leading up to this for mental health day first place, right? Like you don't go from, I don't know, normal ho-hum kind of work environment to saying that. I mean, that's the kind of thing where like in a lot of work environments, we'd lie, right? Plus it's also pandemic, so we're all working from home. So it'd be way easier to pretend like you're working when you're not really, like all kinds of things. So what are some of the things about the work environment, about how you're treated, about how you're talked to, about all of it that let you know that it was that kind of environment in the first place? Because what we really want out of these conversations is for, you know, leadership at other companies who are recognizing that they do not have this kind of culture, that they can learn what are the things that they can be doing, how do they talk to their team, the structure of things, so that we can start to create more inclusive and more understanding and compassionate and empathetic work environments.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that I had COVID-19 and
you've had quite a spring.
Yeah, it's been, 2020 has been something else. Yeah, so I had COVID-19. I have a 10-month-old daughter. I'm an 11-year-old, so I'm doing homeschool. So I'm a teacher and a maid and a nurse
and literally superwoman.
Yeah.
What?
And and then my boyfriend actually they found a mass in his face, and they thought it was an abscess, and then they thought it was cancer, so he had surgery. There's a lot that's been going on. And so when I initially came to Lauren and Ted about everything that was going on, like that, to answer your question, that's how I knew how compassionate and caring they were, is because they're like, I'm like, I'll be back to work as soon as possible. They're like, don't even think about work. Like, we don't care about that. We care about you. What can we do? How can we help you get better? Calling me, texting me, checking in on Omar, they sent me, it's a small thing, and it's not, I hope I don't embarrass them, but they sent me a $100 Grubhub gift card. They were just like, we don't want you to have to worry about cooking, and we know you have, it's little things like that. Like, that's how you know that people genuinely care about you.
Yeah, and so I think that's a really good point. That's something that a lot of people fail to think about when they're looking at spiffs and recognitions and stuff like that. Like, Amazon gift cards are great, but the message behind, you shouldn't have to worry about food right now. You shouldn't have to worry about getting a good meal. Here's delivery. Like that speaks to you at a very different, much more visceral level. And especially for women who by and large still do the majority of the cooking in most households, regardless of whether or not we work. Mm-hmm. Like that's literally taking some of that emotional burden that people carry. Yes.
And to think about something like who thinks about something like that? You know what I mean? And like, they're always just ready to help, and hey, like, I hope everything's okay. If you want to talk, let me know. If not, don't call me. You know what I mean? If you just want to be by yourself, like, it doesn't matter, like anything that you need. And so that's how I really knew what kind of environment I was working in. So when all of this came around with George Floyd and the riots and the protests and all of these things that are going on, I knew that I could be transparent and be like, hey, like, my head is not in a space right now to be able to give you 100% or even 50%. And I'm not going to pretend, because I don't have to. Yeah. And they accept, you know, that it's just a really awesome company, honestly. Really good people. Amazing.
And I do think, you know, it's funny, we do talk a fair amount in sales about like mindset, right? This is a big part of why there's this, I don't know, this like urban myth that athletes make the best salespeople. It's like all mindsets, like that competitive. And so like, but one of the things I've realized we don't talk about enough, at least from like a leadership perspective, is mindset is more than like, you know, urging people to be hyper competitive, like actually making people feel safe and like someone gives a damn. I mean, I remember the best sales boss I ever had. Like we were SDRs and we were at this little startup, and frankly, no one knew our company. This is when we were trying to sell cloud analytics, when cloud was still super controversial. And so frankly, it was really hard and we got told no all the freaking time.
Yeah.
And we had this boss that would send us these emails, like send us home like on a half day right before a holiday. And we, by the time you got home, you'd have this email in your inbox about how we were like changing the world. And like, it would be like the most inspiring thing where we would all then like text each other and be like, oh my God, Corrigan's email just made me cry. Like it makes me feel like I'm like what I'm doing is going to save the earth. And it's like, I'm selling freaking analytics. And there was something about that that made you like come into work so freaking motivated to like be a part of this thing. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough from like a leadership perspective of like, I don't know, just making people feel like someone gives a damn about you. It actually makes you better at your job.
Yeah, and it's like it's not all matrix and KPIs and all this, you know, like that, all of those things are important, sure, but you know, when I know that I can go to my boss and be like, hey, I'm not like here today and I just need a minute. The next time I come into work, like I want to do well, because who doesn't want to do well and give your very best for a company that like cares about you and your family? How's Ari? How's the baby? How's like, really? Like, of course.
Well, and
whatever you guys need. Like,
this always makes me laugh when companies like, oh, you know, we can't afford maternity benefits. We can't afford good healthcare. We can't afford things like that. It's like, you can't afford not to, because that's how you get the best out of people, because you give good, you get good back. We know this, but beyond that, people, the better the healthcare that's offered, the healthier the employees are, the less sick days they take, which just makes the company more money. The better their attitude is, it goes like that. But it's something we talk about, making spaces where people can feel seen. And, you know, we've heard about the great things that LB and the team at Factor 8 are doing and how they've really supported you. We also are aware that's not the case in a lot of companies.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a loaded question or if this is something you can think of. Have there been situations in your career where things have happened to you that made you feel invisible or made you feel unseen or unsafe? And what were some of those things like, so we can be aware and make sure we don't repeat those mistakes?
Yeah, it's always interesting. And I'm not going to say for every company that I've worked in. I mean, you know, as you grow in sales and you get older, you observe more, you learn more, you're a little bit more aware of your environment. But there is a company that I can think of off the top of my head that my boss was just a creep. Like, I can't really say it in any other way. He thought that he could speak to women any way that he felt like it. He felt like he could tell me about my hair and what made other people feel comfortable and how I should wear it. And he thought that he could make comments about my body and the dresses that I should wear and dresses that I shouldn't wear. He thought he could make these comments on a regular basis to almost every woman that worked there. And I'm not going to say like I was singled out, but as a Black woman, and when someone speaks about your hair, which is different than other people, it's like there are things that make you feel singled out, and it makes you feel very much alone. And yeah, so I've definitely had that experience.
One, you know, one of the things too that you didn't have to mention in your like intake form, but you did, is that your experiences that you are often, almost always, the only Black woman in the room. And can you share just like a little bit about what that is like? I mean, I think most women in sales have had plenty of experiences where they're the only woman. Like, I don't know a single woman in sales that has not had that experience.
Sadly.
However, being the only in multiple categories at once, that's its own, that's, you know, that's compounding
another level.
that feeling.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, one, what does that feel like? And two, what are some of the ways that you've coped with that?
So, yeah. So first of all, it's just like you said, like being the only woman and then being the only Black woman, like it compounds the feelings of being alone on an island. And you might have an administrative assistant that's a woman, or you might have someone in marketing, you know, in the next department over that's a woman or you know, of color, but you're still there by yourself. So it's a very lonely feeling. I think that you learn to edit yourself a lot. So like, don't be too loud. Don't be too vocal. And I don't mean like, actually, I mean like, don't give too much of your opinion. Don't offend people with your hair, right? We want to keep your hair like not too ethnic. And, you know, like to be really transparent, like my voice gives people the idea that like they can talk to me a certain way or they can treat me a certain way. And I just sort of like take it, you know, because you feel like you have to. Like that boss that I had, I never stood up. I was never like, hey, that's really not appropriate to talk to me that way. I would just be like, weird giggle, and then walk away.
And
because you feel like you have to.
Yeah. And like Ashleigh and I have had this conversation before. It's like, I look back at my 20s and I look at some of the jokes that I laughed at, and it makes me absolutely sick to my stomach now. Because, and it's this really awkward thing where it's like, sometimes there are jokes that you know make you uncomfortable. Sometimes there are these weird borderline ones where you're like, is that funny? And it's not until later that you're like, nope, that was not funny. And like, and it's such a complicated thing. And I remember having this like realization in my early 30s where I was like, oh my God, I feel complicit. Because I feel like I made it seem like it was okay.
I gave them permission to keep making those jokes because I laughed, even though the laugh came from a place of, I don't want to pick this fight, so I'm just going to laugh so I can get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such an awful feeling.
And if I can bring up something, and this is a nerve for me, and Kasey knows this about me. I don't know if I've talked about this in the podcast. Hair. I've gone through my own journey in the past, little over a year of stopping flat ironing, letting my hair go curly, which it is, apparently. I didn't realize that it was because everyone else in my family has straight hair. And I wore it curly to a conference last year. And I had 3 different people come up to me and say how much they appreciated that I wore my hair curly and natural for the conference. And one of the women that came up to me was African American, and it blew my mind because as a part of this journey, there's this curly girl method. For any guys who are listening, you don't care about this stuff, but there's like a whole theory. Yeah. There is a theory behind this stuff that a lot of us do.
There's a whole Reddit thread, which it's like the only Reddit thread that I get notifications for.
Yeah, it's a thing. But I look at like I know what I go through with my nice little, 2B, 2C hair. And I look at what I feel, and I'm already checking my language, but I look at what the women who are in that really kinky, coily hair, and I'm in awe of the work that goes into this hair that is considered ethnic. And it's given me a whole deep appreciation for like this stuff is beautiful and it's incredible and it's amazing. And the idea that someone would put all this work that I couldn't even imagine doing. And I'm like getting to the point where it's like, okay, I had to put 4 products in my hair. But fine. Okay. The routines and the maintenance and stuff and the things that you can't do
Yeah.
with the hair and the pain involved. And to come into the office with it on point and looking amazing and feeling fabulous, having someone tell you it's ethnic. I mean, I literally cannot imagine anything for a woman that would be more soul crushing.
Yeah. And it's like, especially when you almost develop this like, okay, well, I understand why they're saying that, because, you know, I'm in outside sales and maybe my customers would perceive it as too much, or you start like justifying it because your hair is not good enough, right? Like a lot of women flat iron their hair or straighten their hair, or Black women get weaves and they wear wigs, and we try to like cover it up. And, you know, when I started to like step out of that and the curly girl method, I actually like, you know, the whole diva curl, the whole thing, you know,
the whole thing.
Curly girls know. Yeah. And you start like, you finally like get the method down and you start feeling really good. And someone tells you that basically like your hair is just not good enough. You're just too much in general. You're just too much. And
that's
I want to punch someone.
It's the, that's the thing though. It's like, it's the too much thing. And when you really think about it from a woman perspective, it's in so many different ways, right? Like we think about, so before COVID, I took the train downtown into the office, and I still have probably 20 pictures on my phone of you get on the train and there's all these women that are taking up as little space as humanly possible on their little seats, and all these dudes like spreading out, they've got bags next to them, all of these other things.
Yeah, really.
And you know, it's the same boss who I said wrote these amazing emails that I loved also was like, hey, you know, you really need to stop saying the right answer in meetings because you need to give the boys a chance to shine. And you know, and it's like, we're told this, it's our hair, it's how we dress, it's how we sit, it's how loud we are, how loud our laugh is, it's how we talk on sales calls. It's like, I mean, it is be smaller, take up less room, be less noticeable in like every single way. And it's interesting. It's like, I don't think like that is a conversation that I don't know we have often enough when there are men in the room.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. It's always, it's like, I call it, I think I read an article, like they call it like editing yourself. Like you can be you, just like not quite you.
Not
like
full
you.
You.
Just a little less.
Just round those rough edges.
Yeah.
I hate that phrase. I've started like that's a phrase that started really pissing me off. Like it's like, oh, we just gotta round off your rough edges. No, that's me.
It's like, no, my rough edges are like what make me beautiful. It's what makes me me. And you either love it and appreciate it and like cultivate the best of it. And like, that's okay. You can't be like, hey, this is your like exceptional splendor. Let's magnify that. Sorry, that's my dog in the background. But way too often it's minimize. It's stop talking so much. It's, you know, instead of expressing your opinion, just smile and nod.
And I have to, now just to kind of bring it back, you've had conversations like this before with other people, I assume, where white women and men are trying to make sure they understand and hopefully are trying to become more empathetic and familiar with your experience so we can better support and empathize. But one of the things kind of I'm wondering about is like, I had a direction I was going with this question. It has completely escaped me. So Michael's going to edit this out. It's the first time I've done that. I swear I had a point.
Let me yell at my dog and then I have a question.
I had a point. I totally had a point.
Keep thinking about it.
I know.
So I'm curious, Kira. So one of the things that you said is that the way you got into sales is that you were doing something completely different. Sorry about my dog. And somebody kind of tapped you on the shoulder and were like, hey, I think you would be really good at sales. And at some point, Ashleigh and I are going to need to go back through our interviews, and we're going to need to count how many women this is the story for, because it's a fuck ton.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about that conversation. And I'm really curious, like, because one of the things we also talk about, and we talk to LB about a ton, right, is that like women, we have this tendency to just like heads down, work hard. Someone's going to like let us know.
They'll tell me what a good job I'm doing.
Yeah. Like if you had to do it all over again and you knew what you knew now, how would that have like changed how you approached your career? And like, tell us a little bit about the really, really badass, was it a woman? Yes, woman. Of course it was a woman who did say, hey, you'd be really good at this. Because like, I think we can all, one, relate and seriously learn from this like dynamic, because it's super common.
Yeah, so I had my son's 11. I had my son, and I didn't work for about a year. I was fortunate enough to be able to like take off with him for a while. And when I decided that I was going to start doing, I was young. I was 22, 23. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? Cool. I'm ready. Let's go. And so I went through an employment agency, because I talked to the guy on the phone, and he's like, well, we'll kind of like triage like what you went to school for and what you'd be good at, and we'll like find somewhere that's perfect for you. I'm like, cool, sounds good. So I went through all of the tests and did everything, and he's like, I think I have like a really good job for you. It's a smaller company, and they do continuing education training for EMTs and firefighters. And so basically like that's your it's very niche. So you're not just like going to be, out there floundering. And he's like, I'm sure there's opportunities within the company for you to move up, but he's like, you'll start as the administrative assistant. Perfect. So I was working there for a couple months, and I would coordinate all the trade shows. So I would order the carpet, the booths, everything that they needed, all the marketing material. I would
just
order
ridiculously complicated and
yeah,
the most
really
tedious stuff.
People don't realize until one tiny thing is messed up, you're like, yeah. So it's very, very, yes, you have to be very meticulous about everything. I would do plane tickets, hotel reservations, all that stuff. And I was talking to one of the salespeople. She was actually the top salesperson. And we're just like chatting, and because she was like a really good friend of mine, and she's like, hey, have you ever considered being in sales? And I'm like, well, no. I was like, my dad's in sales. My dad was in car sales. He's really successful. But I was like, I don't know women like you who are like, who sell.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know before I came to this company like that was a thing. And yeah, she's number one. And I'm like if I said, if I do it, will you teach me? And she was like, yeah, I got you. And so I went to a couple trade shows with her, and I would just sort of, follow her around and see what she did. And then I would sit in on calls with her. And before you know it, I was their first inside salesperson. And I did that for like a year and a half. And I just got really, really comfortable. And they actually got bought out by a bigger company, and a lot of things changed. So I moved on from that, but it was just the coolest experience ever. She literally took me under her wing. Her name is Sonia. I'll never forget her. We're still friends. And she's just a really, really, like you said, like a badass woman. Like, she's like, you can do this. Like, don't be afraid to, like, you're really successful. You make all this, like, how much money do you make? Like, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. Like, no, I'll tell you how much money I make. And I'm like,
right.
Oh, that's crazy. So,
yeah. And that's the thing. And that's the other thing that like, that we just loved about LB and everything she was talking about is this like, hey, when we have this incredible ability to help cultivate like the next class of badass women. And it's really easy to just like get caught up in your own thing and your own kind of grind and focusing on your own stuff. And I think we all really like, especially because so many women got into sales because somebody tapped them on the shoulder, we have this responsibility to carry that forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gotten to the point where my husband can give the recruitment pitch for me. If I'm in the wild and I stumble onto somebody who does a passable sales pitch, I'm like, hey, you should go into tech. or into like not retail, because you'll be a lot happier.
I've told so many cell phone salespeople that they should become an SDR, like so many times. They never listen to me.
I need
to work on my pitch.
Well, no, it's not you. I've currently given the pitch. I think I'm at 22 times that my husband has tracked, and I've had 2 people follow up. That's a whole other episode. But I think the thing about that story that makes me really laugh, because I feel like a lot of us, A, who were tapped on the shoulder, and then B, who are now reaching back and trying to do some tapping and some encouragement. It's that idea of, and I wonder, just hypothetically, do you think if she had tapped a guy, the guy's reaction would have been, "Oh, will you teach me?"
No.
Or would it have been, "Hell yes, I've got this," and just run after it and fallen on their face?
Right.
What I wonder is, like, I don't think the guy waits to get tapped.
Yeah.
You know, and also, how many male administrative assistants have you seen in your lifetime?
One.
I mean,
the guy before me.
Yeah,
so
like
I've got like 3, but now that I'm thinking back on it, all of them were like studying for their masters of social work. And
I immediately think of the guy who plays Jack Donaghy's assistant on 30 Rock. That's what comes to mind. Like, it's just not a thing. And so I think it is, I don't know, men are more likely to just go for it right out of the gates.
And Kira, I think you hit the nail on the head too. I didn't know any. Well, no, I did. I knew one. I just didn't realize she was a saleswoman. My dad was in sales too, but he was in tech. I met his boss and a couple other people he worked with. I knew he worked with women. It didn't click until literally just now that I didn't recognize that they were saleswomen. I knew my dad was in sales. I knew my dad was a salesman. I didn't recognize that they were saleswomen until I was in sales myself. And then I was like, oh, there are women who can do this. It's the same reaction. So bringing it back, how long in your career was it until you were working with another woman of color in sales?
Wow. Yeah. So I've never worked with another woman of color in sales. The woman that I work with now, she's actually in marketing. She's in our marketing department. So I've never worked with another woman of color in sales.
So there's I don't know if you guys saw this, that I haven't seen it in a while, but there was a tweet. This is probably like a year and a half ago. And I've seen it a couple of times where someone will be like, how old were you when you had a Black man as your teacher for the first time? Mm-hmm. And the responses are crazy, because it's like, there's tons of people like, oh, I've never had one. And for me, it was college. And so it's different story, but like very similar thing, where it's like, there's just certain teachers. It's mostly white ladies, let's be honest, and sales, it's mostly white dudes. And I think that's something that, like, I don't know, I'm hoping that all the conversations we're having right now help us just be a lot more like aware and honest. And I think one of the things that, I've had this conversation a bunch in the last week of like, yeah, it's great that there's so many companies like voicing their support for Black Lives Matter and for the protesters and what's going on.
And even doing donations.
However, when these big companies do that, and then you look at their leadership team and it is 100% white people and like 90% white men, it feels really, really hollow. And I think because there's like this outpouring of support and people are like kind of taking the next step and like looking at where it comes from and kind of calling more and more companies out for this, I'm hoping anyway that it means that we'll all just be like a little bit more aware and a little bit more likely to not laugh at the joke and actually say something.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, Kira, are there other things about your experience as a Black woman in sales, as the mother of a Black son, that make you think, you know what, I really hope we pay more attention to this, or I hope we talk more about that, or I wish these white leadership teams understood this thing that they never really seem to get?
Yeah, so I would probably say, I mean, when you bring up me being the mother of a Black son, I mean, it just like, it always like hits, like right here, because it's like having to have a conversation, and I've had to have a conversation with an 11-year-old who wants to see the video, and I'm like, I don't want to show him this, but then the other part of me is like, he needs to understand these things. He needs to know what's going on in the world. And so, I mean, I guess I kind of bring it back to Factor 8 and the way that they have treated everything that we're going through. I think it's empathy. And like, the word empathy has almost become like a gimmick nowadays. Like, I know, because with COVID-19 and like, let's craft our scripts around empathy.
Yeah, we were beating that horse back in February.
Yeah.
And it's June.
And now people are like, empathy, like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I think it's
the perfect sound effect.
But I think it's really important for, like, just like we were talking about earlier, like, actually care about the things that people are going through, because my struggle in this is way different than someone else's. Like, you guys, like, there are allies who are fighting this fight with us, but you can never feel it as deeply. And I think that people recognize that, but they sometimes, because you can't feel it as deeply, it doesn't matter how empathetic you are or sympathetic, or you just don't know how it feels. And so, yeah, just like keeping that part of it in mind, like, yeah, like, this is sad for me, but imagine what Kira has to go through when she has to sit down at the dinner table and show an 11-year-old a video of somebody being murdered.
I can't,
because he has to know what's going on.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing, like, I keep thinking about is, I worry about white allies or white people who want to be allies, but who recognize that they can't fully understand, and they use that sort of as an excuse to, like, not try to learn.
Or to take their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
I can't understand this. I will support it, but it's not my place to jump in.
Yeah.
I just want to call out, I think that is the first time in this podcast, I don't know, if you're watching the video, you can see me. I literally just like crawled in my chest and pulled myself back together for a second, because I can't imagine. And thank you for sharing that experience, because you're right. I don't know. I will never know. But the experiences that I do have of deep pain and not shielding people that I love from the reality of a situation. I don't know your pain, but I do know pain. And I never want anyone to have to go through anything like this. And this is not about me. This is not about my story, but I hear this shit and I just get so angry and so sad. And it's so easy to feel like it's not worth it. It's not worth it to have the conversations and to expose yourself to this stuff. And I encourage you, if you're listening to this and you're like me and you're one of the people who's a little more conservative and doesn't really want to rock the boat too much, just don't take your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say that enough. I know so many different people, and some of them are Black and some are white and some are Hispanic and some, like, I know so many people, and so many of them like showed up for me. And I don't mean like physically showed up. I mean like
We're not allowed to do that.
We're right. But we're pushing, and we're gonna make our voice heard. And we don't know everything, but we're not gonna not say anything at all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take for you to know everything for you to stand up and be like, hey, this is fucked up. Even if you say it just in those words, like,
I encourage the use of these words.
Yeah.
Those words need to be used more often. It's not, this is the situation. It's complicated. It's fucked up.
And
it's fucked up.
I think so. I realize, and I've been talking about this more this week. I realized about a year and a half ago that I don't shut up. I am vocal about all of my opinions, but I realized that I was not as vocal about my opinions related to race as I was about literally everything else. And it was like this thing that was in the back of my brain for a little while. And I realized that it was because I was fucking afraid. And I was really afraid of saying the wrong thing and upsetting people. I don't really give a shit about upsetting racists or, terribly conservative people, but I was afraid of offending, my Black and brown communities and my friends and
doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
That's always my fear.
And so I just didn't say anything. And so I started trying to read as many books as I could. And it's funny, it's like, I posted something about it this week and I started to go back through the list and I was like, fuck, I really read a lot of books about this in the last year and a half, and stuff where it's like memoirs, it's nonfiction, it's novels, it's everything. And one thing I really realized is that the more I read, the more comfortable I started to feel talking about it because I had more words for it. I had more things I could say. I had more facts that I could throw in. I had a better perspective. And so I will say, for anybody that is listening I'm like, fuck, I have a really long way to go. I don't know a million different things. But if you are feeling afraid, take the time and educate yourself, because it's the only thing that started to make it easier for me to test saying things and recognizing that I was going to screw it up and it was okay. And I was going to keep learning and I was going to get better. And it just a little went a long way in terms of giving me the language and the confidence to actually join in the conversation and continue to kind of learn and grow with it.
Yeah. And I think that is that's one of it gives you more context when you're reading. Yeah, you can be like, oh, okay. And you can also digest it in your own time at your own pace.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to mention too, it's important to let yourself react and to have opinions.
Yeah.
There are, none of this is clean. There are no clear answers. I mean, one of the things I think I've asked about 10 different people this week, and Kira, I'm going to ask you as well, because I think I might ask all our guests this. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Black or African American?
I have a lot of people ask. I think Black is fine. It really doesn't. Neither one is going to offend me. I know some people are like, don't call me African American, and other people are like, don't call me Black. So maybe it's one of those things where you just ask, and then if people are like, I prefer this, but I don't really have a preference, honestly.
That occurred to me. I had someone, I was using African American. I had someone tell me, so she's like, you can just say Black.
Yeah,
I was like,
I want people. I'm of that thought. I want people to feel comfortable because we call it white people. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, what else you gotta call us? It's
Anglo-Saxon,
right.
And it is
translucent.
It's I do remember someone sort of, and I don't even remember kind of how it started when I started saying Black instead of African American, and a friend of mine, Blair, was like, the first time we were kind of hanging out one-on-one, and I said Black, she was like, can I just stop? Can I just say thank you for saying Black and not being overly formal? And I was like, You are welcome. Like, that was the easiest thing for me to do. Like, absolutely.
It feels more comfortable. Like, if you call me Black, like, I feel like you're my friend. If you call me African American, I feel like I met you once at a mixer. I don't know. It's just,
it feels
different.
more formal. It feels more formal.
It feels more like a census taker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for this, Kira. And as the next couple of weeks like unfold, I hope you will kind of keep in touch with us about your experience. And if there's anything where you're like, shit, people really need to know this or see this or learn that. Because I think one thing that I think is kind of amazing right now is I think a lot of people are recognizing that they really are behind in understanding what is going on and are really, really like on the super learn and like, yeah, okay, should have happened a million years ago. But it's happening. And so as you continue to have this experience, if you think like, oh God, I'm realizing people don't get this part, or this is a part of this story that is getting underreported, like, let us know, because we would
this platform
love to be
is
able
open
to share
to you.
that. Yeah.
I appreciate that, guys. I do want to say one thing because it was brought up to me today, and I think that I saw on Lauren's post, somebody said like what a time to be alive when people are really recognizing, because I feel like this is the first time that everybody kind of got together, people who aren't racist, and we're like, hey, like something's really wrong here. And somebody had typed something to me and they were like, yeah, like I don't think that white people should get credit for like standing up because like that's what you're supposed to do. And I said, yeah, like it is your responsibility because you have a certain amount of privilege to use it for good, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. And like I would encourage anybody who's listening to this, like realize that you do deserve credit when you stand up, because it's not easy. Like being a parent, it's your responsibility to raise contributing members of society, right? Like you're supposed to raise good people, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And you should get credit if you do it properly. Like there's nothing wrong with giving yourself credit when you like stand up and you use the privilege that you have for good. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know you didn't ask, but I just wanted to say that.
That's exactly what we want to hear. What we want to hear from the platform perspective, not I need to hear that.
I really appreciate you saying that. And I also, I will just say to the white folks, yeah, like be proud that you're doing stuff and you're joining in, but like don't ease up.
Yeah, just keep going. Keep doing
just
it.
Keep going.
I'll put it, I can put it in white nerd speak, just translate for a second. With great privilege comes great responsibility.
There you go. That was good.
I had to get my nerd in. It was gonna come out.
By the way, did you see there's a video of somebody overdubbed? It's like the final or one of the final scenes from Avengers Endgame. Sorry, I don't watch superhero movies, but it's them. They have these like little labels of all it's like protesters, white Americans supporting, donators, petition signers. And it's like each person in it sort of gets added to this. And I didn't understand like 70% of the references because I don't watch those, but it still like made me weep like a baby of like, we're all coming together. Like, isn't this amazing? And we're going to save the earth. And I don't know that it'll happen, but I really, really fucking hope it does.
Yeah, me too.
And on that note, to lighten things up, because this has been just, you know what, we're not going to lighten up. We're going to dump it down because this has just been way too easy and fun. We're going to do the lightning round. So the lightning round is a series of questions. This is designed to be lighthearted, a little bit of fun. Don't think too much about them. Just to, like I said, just kind of pick your brain a little bit here before we let you go. What's your morning routine?
Usually my daughter wakes me up at around 5:30 and we have a bottle and then we talk for a while and she laughs. And then I start getting ready for my day. If I cook breakfast, then that's what I do. I don't do that every morning, but sometimes I do that. And check my emails and get started.
Pick one person who's had a significant impact in your career.
Sonia, the woman that I was telling you about earlier.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's your pump up song?
Ooh. Probably like, I can't pick one song, but the entire Kendrick Lamar album, Damn, is my go-to.
There we go. Now our playlist on Spotify just got significantly longer.
Yeah.
There you go.
What's one thing you wish you'd learned earlier?
Confidence. I wish that I had it when I was, 21. It took me a really long time to get there, but yeah.
Awesome. What is your favorite sales book?
Ooh. I don't have a favorite sales book.
We're getting a lot more. No, we're getting a lot more of those lately.
Mm-hmm.
What's one way someone could have been a better ally to you?
I think that a lot of times it's difficult when your family feels a different way than you do, particularly your husband. I won't say any names, but that's definitely been an issue that I've run into. So
the impact of sales as a career on a relationship, that's a big thing. It's a big thing that I wish more people talked about. I'm sure that means we will at some point. What's one way that you are working to be a better ally for others?
Really learning how to listen. I think it's kind of easy at times, especially in the times that we're in with everything going on, not just one thing, but a lot. It's easy to want to be heard, but to really try to hear other people and really learn how to, don't listen just to respond, but really listen to understand.
Ooh, that was real.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, what is your guilty pleasure after a bad day?
Prosecco.
Yes.
And yeah, that's what's in here. I mean, that's.
Yeah, in like 15 minutes. So hear that.
I'm gonna go finish one more piece of work and then I'll be doing. I actually have a bottle of Prosecco downstairs. I haven't opened. I've been waiting for something to use it for. I'm just gonna have to go drink it.
There you go.
After a week like this, I think we've all earned it.
And there goes the bottle.
Yeah. Kira, this was awesome. Thank you so much for being willing to be so open and to share all of this.
Of course, I had a lot of fun. You guys are fun.
You are too.
Yeah.
We had a feeling you would be because turns out LB is awesome, and like if you work with her and she spoke so ridiculously highly of you, we were like, okay, this is going to be ridiculously fun. So thank you. And we will, add a lot of notes to, or add a lot of links to the notes for this episode. And we just encourage anybody that is listening that has questions, that wants to learn, that wants to engage, have the confidence to get out there and be a part of the conversation. And of course, let us know if there are things that we are missing, things we should be covering, things we should be learning, all the rest.
This platform is a community platform for the foreseeable future. So if you have something you want to share, please do reach out to us. We are still working on guests, so please don't hesitate to go to othersideofsales.com and nominate yourself or nominate somebody else who has a story that needs to be told, or if you just want to rant about something. We're here. We want to listen. We want to listen well, and we want to keep having this conversation in a meaningful way. And again, Kira, again, thank you so much for being here. Those of you who are listening, please, share this episode, like, subscribe, review on your podcast catcher of choice. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get your social for all the stuff, as well as information on how to get a hold of Kira if you're interested in learning more about Factor 8 and making her life a little bit easier, giving her some demos right now or some appointments.
There you go. Love that plug.
There you go.
Yeah, we got to put a CTA in here. You have to. It's a sales show.
Real talk.
So on that note, thank you all so much for listening. Please don't forget the State of Sales survey is still open. We are leaving it open through the end of June, and then we are actually going to close it. So if you haven't taken it yet, this is a really important opportunity for us to get some great data about diversity and harassment and discrimination in sales, as well as just what sales people actually look like today. So it's really important that you take it if you haven't already. If you have taken it, please share it with your colleagues. The more people to take it, the better the data we get, the more stories we get to share to keep this conversation going in the future. And with that, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.